In this video, we're going to be reviewing and installing 4 of Lectron's newest carburetors, their Billetron 38 carburetor for the Throwback 2-stroke garage build shootout by Lectron Fuel Systems. What's going on, everybody? Greg Hitchcock here, and if you guys are new, my channel specializes in dirt bike builds, moto how-tos, and product reviews. And in this video, we're going to be reviewing and installing Lectron's Billetron carburetors on all my bikes for the Throwback 2-stroke garage build shootout project that I'm doing. So it's actually worked out great that the project's been a little bit delayed and I haven't finished it up yet, because I'm able to use Lectron's Billetron carburetor on all the bikes behind me, the CR250, the KX250, the RM250, and YZ250. Because if I got the project done a little bit earlier, I would have only have used their H-series carburetor, which still works phenomenal, and so happy that I put that on my Chevy truck's Kawasaki build for the KX250. I was on the fence for the longest time, but I gave Lectron all my specs about the bike, the engine details, aftermarket parts, my elevation, type of fuel I was running, etc., etc. They sent the carb to me, I threw the carb on, and the bike ran perfectly from day one, and I never touched a thing, maybe except the idle adjustment screw. But now we've got Lectron's Billetron 38 carbs to all try out for the Throwback 2-stroke garage build shootout. So taking a look at all the carbs here on the table, I've got a stock Keen carb from my KX250. Then I've got the standard H-series 38 Lectron carb here that was on my KX250. And then all the way to the right, we've got 4 brand new Lectron Billetron carbs ready to go. What's cool here is that we'll be able to break down the difference in the 3 carbs, the stock carb, the Lectron H-series carb, and then the new Lectron Billetron carb. The first thing I want to speak to is the host of design changes that Lectron actually made to the carburetor to make it more user-friendly. And let me compare that to the Lectron H-series carb here. So to compare the sizes back to back, the Lectron Billetron carb is shorter as well as skinnier. So it's not as wide from intake to exhaust, and I'm going to show you that right now. So from top down, you can see that the Lectron Billetron carb is just a little bit shorter than the Lectron H-series on the left. So let me give you guys a side view here. They actually thinned out the Lectron Billetron carb on the right, and you can see how much thicker the H-series carb is in the middle compared to the Billetron on the right and the stock carb on the left. Just makes it a little bit easier to install and then fit into the motorcycle when it's actually on the bike. So the first user-friendly thing that I love about the Lectron Billetron carb is that the choke, they moved it to the left side of the carburetor here. So we've got the intake and then the exhaust ports. If we look at the H-series carb and rotate it the same way with the intake and exhaust, you don't actually see the choke on this side. It's actually on the other side of the carburetor. So if the engine was cold, you actually had to reach around the bike with your right hand, and it was kind of tight to reach in there with the pipe and everything to lift this choke up. I just thought it was a little bit weird of design, didn't think about it until they actually came out with the new Billetron carb, that it actually lines up just like the stock carburetor does with that choke right here. We've also got the idle adjustment here, which can be made with your fingers, and they actually changed the idle screw a little bit to make finer idle adjustments. And the new Lectron is designed to have a smoother idle as well. So next up is the location of the power jet as well. So on this old H-series carburetor here, it's kind of in the back where it was difficult to get a screwdriver in to adjust it here. And you couldn't really adjust it with your fingers. Now with the new Billetron carb, Lectron moved that power jet to the same side as the choke and the idle screws, made it a little bit bigger. So if you're on the track, you feel like it's running a little bit too fat and rich, or it's a little bit lean and popping, you can go ahead and just quickly adjust that power screw and then get right back out to riding. So the location and the convenience factor of the choke, the idle, as well as the power jet move to the left side of the Billetron carb, just make it real easy, quick, and efficient to make all the necessary adjustments that you need to keep you out there riding and less time wrenching on your bike. What's also cool about the new Lectron carb is that it's designed to work with your stock throttle cable. With the H-series carb, Lectron needed to provide you with the throttle cable, which costed a little bit more money, but the new Billetron 38 carb is compatible with that stock throttle cable, which is awesome. And all the hardware has been switched to metric too. If you do happen to adjust the metering rod in there, these screws are now metric instead of standard. So this is now a 3mm Allen wrench, which comes standard in most toolkits. Compared to the H-series carb, where it was a standard Allen wrench, it was a weird size too at 7/64. So I actually had to go out and buy the specific Allen wrench to fit these Allen screws. They don't come in a standard toolkit, which is a little bit annoying. So awesome change that Lectron made to the Billetron, that you're able to use a metric 3mm Allen wrench here. So what's awesome with the new Billetron as well is they went to a new 2-screw design instead of a 3-screw design. And there's also locating tabs on the Billetron to make it easier to put this cap back on. It was a little difficult to line up all the screws in this cap on the old H-series carb because it didn't have those locating tabs. They have a complete new bowl design as well. So you can see the new Billetron has a clear bowl compared to the old H series carb, which has a foggy bowl, which also makes it way cooler for you guys getting those videos of your Lectrons float bowl filling up. So I gotta say, overall, with the new Billetron Lectron, I really geek out about all the design changes that they made, because I'm a veteran user of that H series carb, and just knowing the little nuances about the choke, having to reach with your right hand through the pipe. I'm just really stoked that Lectron was able to take all the input that all the users and riders gave them from the H series carb and input that into the new Billetron carb. It's going to be awesome. As far as power goes, Lectron claims that the new Billetron carb is supposed to have an increased bottom end hit and throttle response over that H series carb, and I'm already a big believer in that H series carb already. Over the stock carburetor, when I installed it on my KX250, I didn't touch a thing and just ripped the crap out of that bike. So I'm just super curious about getting these new Lectron Billetron carbs on the bikes for the Throwback 2-stroke garage build shootout to see how they really compare to that H series carb. And I've already seen videos from Jeff Walker and Charles from MX Revival, and they're already making me believers of the new Billetron carb. I did forget to mention that the new Billetron does have a float drain at the bottom, so you just back out that screw, compared to the old one, which didn't have a drain. The reason why Lectron claims that these carbs have more bottom end and throttle response over the H series carb is because of the new aggressive bell design that you see here. The new H style slide also operates a lot more smoothly too, because it's made of aluminum and not zinc like the old model. So air is just able to flow through past that metering rod much better, increasing the bottom end hit and throttle response over that old H series carb. What's also cool is we've got these easy adjust thumb screws that you can also grab as well for the new Billetron. Replace those Allen screws here at the top just to make it super easy, quick, and efficient to take that cap off to adjust the metering rod when you need to do so. All right, we are ready to get these Lectrons on. So as you guys know, if you watched my previous video, I didn't have that Honda cylinder back yet from the shop after being re-sleeved. So finally got that motor buttoned up, the fresh red fat head on it. So now all the bikes are in equal stages. Got the radiators, the radiator hoses on there as well. So obviously we need the throttles on these bikes. So I'm gonna be throwing on these ODI grips here. I thought switching to the metric bolts were cool, but dang, it really doesn't get any easier than this with these quick takeoff thumb screws. There's that H-style slide that we're talking about earlier. Go ahead, feed the throttle cable through the top there, and we'll get it screwed in. So I'll compress the spring a little bit so you can get the throttle cable into the little slot on the slide. Then it's just really simple. Get that slide inserted back into the Lectron, line up the metering rod with the hole in the carburetor, and then thanks to those locating tabs on the top of the cap, we'll get the cap right back on the carburetor with the easy peasy thumb screws. All right, let's see how easy it fits into the frame, into this intake boot. I honestly don't think that could have got any easier. Let's check that throttle operation. Oh yeah. And finally just get these carb wires fished down through this bracket here. Check that out. All we need is the tank on there to hook up that fuel hose. Time to make it happen on the Suzuki now. Now let's give the Suzuki a shot. There it is on the Suzuki. I actually think it looks better on the Suzuki than the Kawasaki just because the yellow and black kind of match together. Fits in there so nicely with a ton of space to get that air boot in there without a problem. Time for a little Yamaha up next. That went a little bit easier than the RM. The RM intake boot was so tight. So better look at that Yamaha Lectron tucked in there so nicely. Definitely plenty of space to get that airbox boot in there. On all these bikes here, you're gonna have to eliminate and tape up the solenoid and TPS sensor. So on the Yamaha that you see here, and then also on the Suzuki, they've got two plugs. One is for the TPS sensor, and then one goes to the solenoid. On the Kawasaki, it's actually just one piece, and same with the Honda too. But basically, you just tape these off with duct tape. And I think with this Yamaha, I'm gonna have to like shove it up in here a little bit because it just doesn't make sense to have the wire run down here where the old carburetor used to go. So I think I'm just gonna get it tied up into that little slot right there in the frame. Here's that TPS sensor and the solenoid sensor right here on the Suzuki. I think I'm gonna feed it back through and just kind of tuck it in this little hole in the frame right there. On the Kawasaki here, it's this green plug, and you see I've already got it duct taped off already. I do need to clean up that duct tape a little bit, but it's got a nice little slot on the frame where that just kind of hangs out. And then likewise with the Honda, you'll just tape that up with some duct tape, and that'll just hang out on that bracket like it's supposed to be. All right, and then guys, for the Honda, we are waiting on the throttle cable, but we can certainly get it mocked up. It's gonna be a little tighter in the Honda just because of the twin spar frame here, but we should have no problem getting this thing in. There it goes. Then here's a better look at the Honda Lectron coming from behind where that airbox boot is gonna fit into. Definitely plenty of space to get it in there. It doesn't seem like there's gonna be any issues. All right guys, so that's gonna be a wrap up of this intro, review, and installation of Lectron's new Billetron 38 carbs on all the bikes with Throwback 2-stroke garage build shootout. And I know there's some die-hard carburetor guys out there that are watching this video right now. I am in no way, shape, or form a carburetor hater, but it definitely takes a lot more know-how, time, and knowledge in order to correctly jet a 2-stroke dirt bike. And a lot of us, including myself, are no Mitch Payton and don't like to spend the time, hassle, frustration. There's a bunch of different components in there, and if you're not confident in jetting a carburetor, then this Lectron is definitely your answer. All you have is that metering rod. You just loosen up both of the intake boots, you rotate the carb forward, you take off those thumb screws or the 3mm Allen screws now, pull out the slide, adjust the metering rod, then throw the slide back in with the carburetor cap, and then you're off and running again. So that's why I'm a big fan of this Lectron carburetor. I do not have to mess with jetting, and I spend more time out on the track riding than I do jetting a carburetor. If there are those of you watching this video right now have any experience with Lectron carb versus a stock carburetor, definitely tell your story in the comments below. It's gonna help out all the viewers watching this video who are on the fence about purchasing an Lectron carb. I know I was on the fence for the longest time, and it was definitely the greatest purchase that I made for my KX250 when I bought that H series carb. This new Lectron BILLETRON carburetor is so much easier to use, so all those changes that they made are definitely user friendly, wicked easy to install these things, and I cannot wait to get these bikes all out on the track, compare them back to back to back, back to back to back to back, and with the old Lectron carburetor as well on my KX250. So definitely stay tuned for that, guys, and you're not gonna wanna miss a second of this Throwback 2-stroke garage build shootout by Lectron Fuel Systems. If you guys have any questions on the Lectron carburetor, feel free to leave a comment below or head over to lectronfuelsystems.com where you can go and find out more information about this new Lectron BILLETRON carb. If you guys also did enjoy the content today, make sure you go ahead and punch that like button for me. Subscribe to the channel. Like I said, the Throwback 2-stroke garage build shootout is coming to a head now that we've got all the bikes with Lectrons on them. But that's gonna be a wrap for this video, guys. I appreciate you guys watching. As always, ride hard, be safe, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.